Wait, is this you? Hey, yo.
Get started in a few seconds, Salakia. Shalom Israel. Yahba Shem Shabrak Thun to the brothers. Yahweh Shemal Thun by Shem Shah to the sisters. I'm Priest Officer Karan Yal of the ISBK, and it's the Monday night history class. Tonight, we're going to be going over the history of Easter as well as 420, seeing that both of these filthy so-called holidays fell on the same day this year. You understand? Blacks, Latinos, and Native American Indians, anything we do wrong, contrary to the scriptures, is deeply rooted in paganism, as well as coming from us worshiping and wanting to be like other nations. You understand? And there's nothing new under the sun with the children of Israel. The Lord has always said we've been a stiff-necked people. We've always been followers as a nation. You understand? And this is the reason why the atrocities that's being committed against us happens, is because the Lord is punishing the children of Israel for us being disobedient. You understand? Salakia. So first I'm gonna go over 420. Salakia. Share my screen. It's a quick Google search. So this is a quick Google search. You understand the origin of 420, and I'm going to show you 420 in the Bible as well. All right. The term 420 originated in the 70s when a group of 5 high school teenagers in California used to meet at 4:20 p.m. in each week in search of a cannabis plant that was supposedly left behind in a forest by a U.S. Coast Guard member who could no longer tend to the crop. 420 is now an annual event taking place on 20 April in celebration of marijuana. The history of observance can be traced back to the early 70s in California, right? Because when you look at what was going on in the 70s in California, this was the age of so-called free love, you understand, hippies and all of that type of stuff. If you know anything about California, the culture associated with California is weed smoke. You understand? Whether you're from Northern California, Central California, or Southern California, right? A lot of brothers and sisters from California, unfortunately, you understand, are taught to get high by smoking weed at a young age. Like literally out here in California, literally out here in California, you got brothers as young as 9, 10 years old, you understand, that smoke weed on a daily basis because this is what they've been taught in this state, in this empire. You understand? When you look at California as a whole, right, particularly further up north than where I'm at in Oakland, California, excuse me, Humboldt County, you understand, is home to some of the strongest cannabis plants that you can find in the whole entire world, right? But this is the culture of being a pothead or smoking excessive weed is deeply rooted in being a goddamn hippie, right? As far as California is concerned. But let's go a little bit deeper than that, right? So I'm going to go to the book of Ezekiel in the 8th chapter. Ezekiel 8. I'm going to start at verse 1. And it came to pass in the 6th year, in the 6th month, in the 5th day of the month, as I sat in mine house, and the elders of Judah sat before me, that the hand of the Lord God fell there upon me. You understand? So, the spirit fell on Ezekiel. You understand? And when the spirit fell on Ezekiel, Ezekiel was inspired to go see what this spirit wanted what the Holy Spirit wanted him to go see, right? Verse 2. Then I beheld, and lo, a likeness as the appearance of fire, from the appearance of his loins even downward, fire, and from his loins even upward, as the appearance of brightness, as the color of amber. And he put forth the form of an hand, and took me by a lock of mine head. And this ain't talking about no damn dreadlock. Ezekiel had braids, you understand? But this is an angel that Ezekiel is encountering, right? And this angel, when it says it took him by the lock of his head, you understand? Meaning he pulled him by his hair, you understand? In the spiritual aspect, meaning guided him in a way where he should go see something, right? Salakia. And the spirit lifted me up between the earth and the heaven, and brought me into the visions of God to Jerusalem, to the door of the inner gate that looked toward the north, where was the seat of the image of jealousy, which provoketh to jealousy. And behold, the glory of the God of Israel was there, according to the vision that I saw in the plain. Then said he unto me, Son of man, lift up thine eyes now the way toward the north. So I lifted up my eyes, and lifted up mine eyes the way towards the north, excuse me, and behold, northward at the gate of the altar, this image of jealousy in the entry. He said, furthermore unto me, son of man, cease thou what they do, even the great even the great abominations that the house of Israel committeth here, that I should go far off from my sanctuary, but turn thee yet again, and thou shalt see greater abominations. So Ezekiel, the spirit, you understand, of the Most High, and an angel put the spirit on him to go to the temple of God, you understand, which is in the holy city, right? And he's seen all of these abominations that the children of Israel were not just doing, which was out of pocket within itself, but they was actually doing this type of stuff at the temple. You understand? Verse 7, and he brought me to the door of the court, and when I looked, behold, a hole in the wall. Then said he unto me, son of man, dig now in the wall. And when I had digged in the wall, behold, a door. And he said unto me, go in, and behold the wicked abominations that they do here. So these brothers and sisters are doing all of these wicked abominations in the temple of God. You understand? Verse 10. So I went in and saw, and behold, every form of creeping things and abominable beasts and all idols of the house of Israel portrayed upon the wall round about. So he's seen all of these wicked, abominable beasts. You understand? All of these different idols that the children of Israel was worshiping at this time. He's seen them all around the walls. You understand? Right? And all throughout the temple, basically. Verse 11. And there stood before them 70 men of the ancients of the house of Israel. And in the midst of them stood Jazaniah, the son of Shaphan, with every man his censer in his hand, and a thick cloud of incense went up. Then said he unto me, son of man, hast thou seen what the ancients of the house of Israel do in the dark? Every man in his chambers of his imagery. Salakia. For they said, the Lord seeth us not. The Lord hath forsaken the earth. So these brothers is doing all type of manner of evil and wickedness. And they looking at it like, oh, God ain't tripping off us. He don't even see what we got going on. They think they doing this in secret. You understand? He said unto me, turn thee yet again, and thou shalt see greater abominations that they do. So he said, look, turn thee yet again, or turn around, or go look over there, and you're going to see even greater abominations that they do. Right? Verse 14. Then he brought me to the door of the gate of the Lord's house, which was toward the north, and behold, there sat women weeping for Tammuz. Right? Now, Tammuz was the son of Nimrod, who was worshipped as a god, you understand, which him and his mother, right, are his mother, which was named Semiramis, or I'm gonna get into the history of Tammuz, Nimrod, and Semiramis, but these people are worshiping for these sisters are weeping for Tammuz right now, right? Tammuz is the son of Nimrod. You understand? And Nimrod, I'm gonna get into the history of that in a second, but I want to jump down, you understand, and show you exactly what they was doing in the temple, right? So I'm gonna skip that. I'm gonna come back to Tammuz, right? So like I'm gonna keep reading, but I'm gonna come back to Tammuz when I break down Easter for you. This is more along the lines of 420, right? Verse 15. Then said he unto me, hast thou seen this, O son of man? Turn thee yet again, and thou shalt see greater abominations than these. So now you got brothers having unclean beast in the temple. You got brothers worshiping idols in the temple. You got sisters at the temple gates weeping for Tammuz, right? Which is a a Babylonian deity. You understand? And now the Lord is telling him to turn around to see some more abominations, right? Verse 16, and he brought me into the inner court of the Lord's house. So now he's in the inner court of the temple. And behold, at the door of the temple of the Lord, between the porch and the altar, were about 25 men with their backs towards the temple of the Lord and their faces towards the east, and they worship the sun towards the east. So now he walked into this inner court of the Lord's house, and then he see 25 brothers. You understand? With their backs towards the temple, right? With their face towards the east, worshiping the sun. You understand? Right? Verse 17. Then he said unto me, hast thou seen this, O son of man? It is a light thing to the house of Judah that they commit the abominations which they commit here. Right? So the house of Judah, you understand, or the southern kingdom, we doing all type of abominations, and we looking at it like it's nothing. That's what it means for it to be a light thing. This is nothing to us. Just like celebrating Easter today, just like smoking weed today, like sinning against the Most High God is nothing to the children of Israel. You understand? It's what we've been trained to think that is just everyday normal life, which is evil and abominable in the sight of the Most High, right? Reading on. For they have filled the land with violence and have returned to provoke me to anger. And lo, they put the branch to their nose. That putting the branch to your nose is lighting up that backwood right now and smoking that weed. That's exactly what that means, to put the branch to your nose. You understand? Brothers and sisters was in the temple of the Lord, worshiping Tammuz, right, which is the son, right, of Nimrod, and the son of Semiramis, which is Nimrod's mother. You understand? Esther or Ishtar or Easter. You understand? Which is the worship of a female fertility goddess. You understand? So they literally are at the temple of the Most High God, celebrating Easter and smoking weed. That's Easter in 420 right there in Ezekiel, the 8th chapter, right? Now let me give y'all some more on Easter, right? Matter of fact, Salakia. Let me give y'all some more on smoking, right? Proverbs chapter 16 and verse 27. An ungodly man diggeth up evil. An ungodly man is going to plant those seeds in the ground to harvest that cannabis plant, right? And this is what he's going to do with it. And then, and in his lips, there is as a burning fire. And he going to dig up them plants, you understand, to roll up that blunt, fire it up, smoke it, and you're going to see that cherry right there in the middle of that blunt, right there in between his lips. That's smoking weed right there in the Bible. There go 420 right there in the Bible, twice. You understand? Salakia. Matter of fact, let me give y'all a little bit more history of Salakia, of Easter. You understand? Because y'all know what Easter consists of today, right? It's the same thing that they was doing in that temple, right? Matter of fact, Salakia, let me go back to that. Let me go back to that real quick. Salakia. Let's go back to Ezekiel, the 8th chapter. Then I'm gonna give y'all Easter, right? An outside source, but I'm gonna show you Easter once again in the scriptures, right? This is the book of Ezekiel, chapter 8 and verse 10, right? So these brothers and sisters is in the temple, right? So I went in and saw, and behold, every form of creeping things and abominable beasts, and all the idols of the house of Israel portrayed upon the wall round about. You understand? Right? That's like today, right? Today, when you go to that church, you understand? Or you had that family gathering on Easter, what's going to be there? Swine, pork, shrimp, crab, lobster, catfish, all of these abominable beasts. What else is going to be there? Your granny, everybody wearing crosses. You understand? Worshiping a picture of white Jesus. Oh, yeah, that's there too. That's your idols. You understand? What else is going to be there? That weed smoke. You understand? Your big cousins and them outside. You understand? After y'all done made these kids worship these goddamn pagan idols by telling them it's an Easter egg hunt. You understand? Worshiping the egg. You understand? Which is worshiping a fertility goddess, right? Then your cousins is gonna be right there on the front porch smoking weed. You understand? When they do the drugs that really get heavy, they go tuck off in the car somewhere. You understand? That's when they pull a pack out. You understand? Salakia. I'm gonna jump down. Verse 17. Right? Then he said unto me, hast thou seen this, O son of man? Is it a light thing? Is it a light thing to the house of Judah that they commit the abominations which they commit here? Is it a light thing that we eat these unclean beasts? You understand? On a day that we're worshiping Tammuz or worshiping Nimrod and his mother. You understand? Eating all of these abominations. You understand? Brothers and sisters, I'm going to read on. It says, for they have filled the land with violence and have returned to provoke me to anger. Niggas get violent on Easter. That's when the ops is outside with their family. And they spin the block and tear up your granny house, you understand, with them switches, right? On Easter Sunday, right? And lo, they put the branch to their nose. And you're gonna have brothers out there getting high. You might have a brother that's shooting at you with a blunt in his mouth. This Easter in 420 right here in Ezekiel the 8th chapter, right here in the Bible. You understand? Children of Israel, we always been evil and wicked towards our power, right? Salakia, let me present this to y'all. Share this with y'all. It's kind of a little bit of a long article. You understand? Right? Now, this article, you understand? This article is consisted of a lot of popular opinions, right? Well, so like I don't want to say popular opinions. This article is consistent of a lot of information that comes from a lot of respected, you understand, historians, right? So we're gonna take history's word for it, and then we're gonna correlate it with the scriptures. You understand? Read on. Many customs of Easter are highly pagan in origin, though we can find the word Easter in Acts 12:4 of the authorized King James version of the Bible. The name was never used in the original scriptures. The original word was Pascha or Pasak. You understand? In Salakia. In the Greek, but I'm gonna get you the word in Hebrew real quick. I believe it's Pasak. Don't quote me on that. Let me get it real quick. Salakia. Yeah, in the Hebrew it's Pesach. You understand? But I'm gonna read it again. Though we can find the word Easter in Acts 12 verse, 12th chapter and 4th verse of the authorized King James version of the Bible, the name was never used in the original scriptures. The original word was Pascha or Pesach, meaning Passover. The word Easter is never biblically associated with the death and resurrection of Jesus Christ, nor was it historically associated with it until the rise of Constantine in 325 AD. For these reasons, biblical Orthodox Christians refer to use the term Passover or Resurrection Sunday rather than Easter when referring to the annual remembrance of Christ's death and resurrection. Now, this is according to history. You understand? Of course, we rely on the scriptures, but respected historian, and well-studied so-called scholars comprised all of this information together. Us and ISUBK, we go off what the scripture say because the scripture is concrete evidence. Easter's anti-Semitic origin, In 325 AD, Emperor Constantine in the Council of Nicaea ordered all churches to celebrate the resurrection of Christ on Easter Sunday. Now, the Roman Catholic Church are the people responsible for changing the Sabbath day to Sunday. You understand? Because of the worship of the sun. Now, we just read this in Ezekiel, the 8th chapter, when brothers was facing the east and they was worshiping the sun. This is ancient pagan history that comes from us following the Babylonian way of life. You understand? The ancient church has celebrated the resurrection during Passover, Nisan 14, or the first month, you understand, on the 14th day, which could fall on any day of the week. But the churches near Rome had abandoned the practice because they hated the Jews and fixed the date to the first Sunday after the first full moon of spring. They also called the celebration Easter after the pagan goddess of spring. All of this is verified by the following quote from the Encarta Encyclopedia. An important historical result of the difference, and this is that very quote, an important historical result of the difference in reckoning the date of Easter was that the Christian churches in the East, which were closer to the birthplace of the new religion and in which old traditions were strong, observed the resurrection according to the date of the Passover festival. The churches of the West, descendants of Greco-Roman civilization, celebrated Easter on a Sunday. Constantine the Great, Roman emperor, which was an Israelite, Constantine was a black man, convoked the Council of Nicaea in 325. The council unanimously ruled that the Easter festival should be celebrated throughout the Christian world on the first Sunday after the full moon following the vernal equinox, and that if the full moon should occur on a Sunday and therefore coincide with the Passover festival, Easter should be commemorated on the Sunday following. Coincidence of the feast of Easter, coincidence of the feast of Easter and Passover was thus avoided. The name Easter probably comes from Estre, the Anglo-Saxon name for a Teutonic goddess of spring and fertility, to whom was dedicated a month corresponding to April. Her festival was celebrated on the day of the vernal equinox. Traditions associated with the festival survive in the Easter rabbit, a symbol of fertility, right? Because what are rabbits known for? They known for reproducing very fast. Like you heard that old saying, they woo 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 like a jackrabbit. You understand? That's why they use the rabbit. You understand? As a symbolism for Easter, because it's really worship of a fertility god, right? A symbol of fertility. And then colored Easter eggs, originally painted with bright colors to represent the sunlight of spring, and used in an Easter egg rolling contest or given as gifts. There goes your Easter egg hunt right there. You understand? In Carter Encyclopedia article Easter. So this is in Carter Encyclopedia article entitled Easter, right? The following is an annual quote from Constantine showing that at the heart of the Sunday issue was Rome's hatred for the Jews. Hold on. So this is what Constantine actually wrote about the Romans hating Israelites. And truly, in the first place, it seems to everyone a most unworthy thing that we should follow the customs of the Jews in the celebration of this most holy solemnity, who polluted righteous. Damn. They hated us. We, having stained their hands with a nefarious crime, are just blinded in their minds. It is fit, therefore, that rejecting the practice of this people, we should perpetuate to all future ages the celebration of this rite in a more legitimate order, which we have kept from the first day of our Lord's passion even to the present times. Let us then have nothing in common with the most hostile rabble of the Jews. Ooh, wee. So, according to what Constantine wrote about the Romans, the reason why they chose Easter instead of celebrating our high holy day, the Passover, is simply because they hated us. Anybody out there, you should clip this. You understand? And show this to any Christian pastor that wear that goddamn pink suit every goddamn year. You understand? Or that powder blue suit every goddamn year to church. Blacks, Latinos, and Native American Indians are the true Israelites that the Bible speaks of. And them Roman Catholics, the original ones, they came up with this celebration because they wanted to have nothing to do with you niggas, and they hated y'all. So the simple fact that damn near 2,000 years later or 1,700 years later, the fact that we celebrate this holiday in remembrance of Roman people hating us is just is flabbergasting, to be quite honest with you, right? Thus, we see that Easter is not an apostolistic tradition, but a tradition set aside by a pagan king who hated the Jewish people. Come on, man. Salakia. The origin of pagan Easter. Most reference books say that the name Easter is derived from Estre, the Teutonic goddess of spring. Although the relationship exists, in reality, the origin of the name and the goddess are far more ancient, going all the way back to the time not long after the flood. Now, this is where the scriptures come in. You understand? Even these so-called top scholars understand that the Bible is an actual history book versus a book contrary to people believing that the book is just some book about religious rhetoric that has nothing to do with the world with what we live in today. It has everything to do with the world that we live in today, right? Nimrod, the powerful ruler who rebelled against God. You understand? Nimrod, the grandson of Noah, became a mighty ruler, and he built and organized major cities. These included Babel, Akkad, and Erech. He also built Resen, Calah, and Nineveh in the land of Asher. Genesis 10:10 through 12. Here, Asher is another name for Assyria. See Micah 5 and 6. Ancient history tells us that these cities were home to unimaginable satanic, cultic, and perverted practices, all headed up by his ruler and high priest Nimrod. When Nimrod finally died, The Babylonian mystery religion continued on through his wife, Queen Semiramis, Khan. Upon Nimrod's death, she defied him as the sun god. In various cultures, he later became known as Baal, Janus, Saturn, Baalim, Baal, Osiris, Bacchus, and Molech. Right? All of these names of other gods, a lot of these names of other gods are actually mentioned in the Bible. You understand? I believe Baal is mentioned in the Bible. Molech is definitely mentioned in the Bible. Baalim and Baal are mentioned in the Bible. You understand? But these are all gods, right? That have origins in these gods pertaining to Nimrod, who was actually a person. And Semiramis, right, was actually not only Nimrod's wife, but it was also his mother. You understand? Later, when Queen Semiramis gave birth to an illegitimate son, she claimed that it was Nimrod reborn. Nimrod, Tammuz by name. Didn't I just read to y'all Tammuz in Ezekiel the 8th chapter? Salaki. Matter of fact, let me go back to that real quick. Go back to that real quick. This is the book of Ezekiel, chapter 8, and verse 14. Then he brought me to the door of the gate of the Lord's house, which was toward the north. And behold, there sat women weeping for Tammuz. That's Nimrod's son. You understand? We was doing the same exact abominations that we was doing today, back in the time of Ezekiel, the 8th chapter, right? So, Salaki, let me go back to that article real quick. Says she claimed that he was promised, he was the promised seed of God. Genesis 3:15. The Savior, Semiramis, became the mediator between man and this God. You had to pray through her to reach him. This is where you get the Virgin Mary from. You understand? This is where you get the Immaculate Conception doctrine from. All of this is deeply rooted in the pagan origins of these Babylonians. And this is where the majority of these so-called holidays that the children of Israel have been taught to celebrate today, unbeknownst to us. Because, like they say, if you want to hide something from a Negro, you got to put it in a book. Because, brothers and sisters, unfortunately, we've been dumbed down and pacified with TikTok and entertainment and Instagram, you understand, and excessive weed and excessive liquor and all of these abominable TV shows that shows Blacks, Latinos, and Native American Indians acting a fool on TV. We've been pacified with all of these different vices in order to stray us away from actually going and doing a research of the stuff that we've been accustomed to celebrating, because our slave master has taught us to be a docile slave. You understand? Salakia. So Nimrod was defied as the god of the sun. Queen Semiramis became the queen of heaven. There you go. That's the Virgin Mary right there. You understand? The goddess of the moon and fertility. And Nimrod, Tammuz, became the savior in this satanic Babylonian religion. There you go. That's the immaculate conception birth. You understand? Which is not in the Bible at all, right? Excuse me. According to the pagan legend, after Nimrod Tammuz died, he descended into the underworld, but through the weeping of his mother, he mystically revived in the springing forth of the vegetation in spring. Ezekiel 8:14. I just read that to you in the scriptures. Our brothers and sisters was worshiping Tammuz in Ezekiel the 8th chapter, which in the same way Queen Semiramis said the evergreen tree symbolizes his father's eternal life. Jeremiah 10:1-7. That's the origins of Christmas as well. You understand? You can read about them cutting down an evergreen tree. You understand? In Jeremiah the 10th chapter. You understand? And decorating it and treating it as an idol. You understand? Well, that comes from worshiping Nimrod, right? Thus, a terrible false religion developed with this sun and moon worship, priest, astrology, demon worship, idolatry, mysterious rites, human sacrifice, and more. The celebration of Nimrod Tammuz's revival is called Ostara or Easter, probably in honor of his mother, whose weeping brought him from the dead. Ostara begins during the spring equinox, which is considered holy by pagans. You know why? Because this is when all of the food starts to grow again. You understand? This is when everything comes alive. You understand? And prosperity and all of this nonsense. You understand? When really it's really just the beginning of the year. You understand? The spring equinox occurs on a day in late March when day and night are of equal length. Thus, its name equinox. God saw that the word was united in this occult, which was centered around Babel, and that the degeneration of the man would soon fall to the level of the pre-flood era. So God put an halt to their order. He confused their speech and separated the people. Genesis 11:7. Then he divided the continents, thus scattered the people upon all the face of the earth. Genesis 10:25. Peleg means earthquake. And Genesis 11:8. You understand? So this is why the Lord split up these nations, you understand, and confused the languages. Because if all of these nations came together under Nimrod, this is why the Lord don't want everybody to come together. Because if we all come together on one accord, we're going to do what we want to do, and we're not going to do what the Most High wants us to do, and we're going to corrupt ourselves, and eventually everybody's going to die from plagues. You understand? Salakia. When the people were scattered, they carried their evil sun god religion with them. They continued to build pyramids reminiscent of the Tower of Babel as part of their mystery religion. This is why these slave masters in Egypt had the children of Israel to build pyramids, because they held on to that mystery religion. Today, we can still find remains of these throughout the world in Iraq, South America, Central America, Asia, Burma, China, etc. Jeremiah 51:7. Babylon has been a golden cup in the Lord's hand that made all the earth drunken. The nations have drunk of her wine, right? Because paganism is deeply rooted in Babylonian culture. You understand? So when you look at all of these different deities of all of these different people on all of these different continents, when you dig deep into it, the further back you go, you're going to go to Nimrod. You understand? Salaki, I'm let me see. I'm going to keep going. Therefore, the nations are mad. Almost every idolatrous practice you can think of originated at Babel, right? Your weed smoke, eating all of these abominations, all of this type of stuff. Everything came from Babylon or Babel, Salakia. As the people scattered from Babel with different languages, they used different names for Nimrod and Semiramis. Some called her the mother goddess Ishtar, originally pronounced Easter. In other lands, she was called Eostre or Astarte or Astera or Istre. She was also called the mother goddess, wife of Baal, Ashtaroth, or Salakia, Ashtaroth, or Ashtoreth, and the queen of heaven, Judges 2 and 13, and Jeremiah 44, 17 through 19. She was worshipped as the god of fertility, as Mother Nature, you understand, the goddess of spring and the goddess of the moon. So when you hear people talking about Mother Nature, they're talking about Nimrod's mama / wife. Origins of the Easter customs. The Easter egg. Now that we know the origin of the word Easter, we can look at one of Easter's most loved symbols, the Easter egg. The egg was a sacred symbol among the Babylonians. They believe the fable about an egg of a wondrous size, which fell from heaven into the river Euphrates. From the marvelous egg, according to this ancient story, the goddess Esther was hatched. Man, come on. You can't tell me these people not high coming up with this stuff. And so the egg came to symbolize the goddess Easter. The idea of a mystery egg spread from Babylon to many parts of the world. In Rome, the mystic egg preceded processions in the honor of the mother goddess. The egg was part of sacred ceremonies of the mysteries of Bacchus. Excuse me. The pagan Druids used the egg as their sacred emblem. In Europe, China, and Japan, eggs were sacred pagan. Eggs were colored for sacred pagan festivals. So they was having when it says the mystic egg preceded processions in honor of the mother goddess, they had parades with these goddamn eggs. You understand? The egg was also a symbol of fertility. Semiramis was the goddess of fertility. The egg was also seen as a symbol of the Babylonian gods. The yolk was the sun god Baal. The white was seen as the white goddess Semiramis, excuse me. And the entire egg was seen as a symbol of Nimrod Tammuz's rebirth. Come on, man. You can't tell me these people ain't off drugs coming up with this stuff. The Easter Bunny. The Easter Bunny is also a pagan idol. The rabbit is a well-known sexual symbol of fertility, and in various parts of the world, religions that developed from Babel associated with periodicity, Salakia, periodicity, excuse me, as in both human and lunar. As you remember, the mother goddess Easter, Semiramis, is associated with the moon and is considered the goddess of fertility. In other words, the Easter bunny is named after and symbolizes the mother goddess. Pagan tradition also teaches that Eostre or Esther saved a bird whose wings were frozen from harsh winter by turning it into a magical egg laying hair. Come on, man. And for all y'all out there, I don't know if you know this, but rabbits don't lay eggs. Salaki, that's what a hare is. A hare is a rabbit, right? Eostre was, and not only do they not do that now, they've never done it in history. You got to be a high, dumb person for somebody to be able to convince you that a damn rabbit can lay an egg. Salakia. Eostre was said to be the goddess of renewal and rebirth, who brought about the reappearance of bright flowers, baby chickens, and baby bunnies, all from their winter den. Excuse me. Sunrise services. Sunrise services in honor of Tammuz is an ancient heathen custom. It is actually described in the book of Ezekiel, right? Now, I ain't going to read this because I just read in the book of Ezekiel, but Ezekiel, the 8th chapter, is describing this. You understand? I mean, y'all get the point on that. I'm going to go ahead and drop that. You understand? Salakia. We'll go to the book of Exodus, chapter 20. Started verse 3, I believe. I'm going to start at verse 1. So let me share my screen. This is the book of Exodus chapter 20 and verse 1. And the Most High spake all these words, saying, I am Yahweh, thy power, which have brought thee out of the land of Egypt, out of the house of bondage. The Most High brought us out of slavery. This is why we just celebrated the Passover down there in Atlanta, Georgia. Barakatah Yahweh Yahweh Shai. And Most High Christ for Commanding General Yohanan, you understand, renting out that glorious venue so we can celebrate the Lord's Passover, so we can honor the power that got us out of slavery once before, and that's going to get us out of this slavery again. You understand? Yahweh Yahweh Shai, Yahweh Hashem Yahweh Shai, Barakatah. You understand? But Salakia, the Lord brought us out of the land of Egypt, out of the house of bondage. Not Easter, not Easter. You understand? Not Nimrod, not Tammuz. Verse 3, thou shalt have no other gods before me. The Lord is the one that brought us out of slavery when we was going through hell and being tormented, and all of these atrocities was being committed against the children of Israel. So why the hell is you worshiping a goddamn rabbit? Why the hell are you worshiping a goddamn egg? Why are you worshiping a man who had sex with his mother and had a child by her, you understand, as your God and celebrating Easter? Why are you worshiping a goddamn plant that you smoke and get high off of? You understand? That's not your God. The Most High brought our people out of Egypt. You understand? And the Lord said, thou shalt have no other gods before me, right? Thou shalt not make unto thee any graven image or any likeness of anything that is in heaven above, or that is in the earth beneath, or that is in the water under the earth. Thou shalt not bow down thyself to them, nor serve them. For I am Yahweh, thy power, am a jealous God, or a jealous power, visiting the iniquity of the fathers upon the children unto the third and fourth generations of them that hate me. When you celebrate Easter, you hate the Most High God. I just read it to you. That the Roman Catholic Church came up with this holiday that they should celebrate because they hated the Israelites so much. You understand? And they teaching you do the same thing, right? Not just by hating the Israelites, but they teaching you how to hate your God. And the Lord said he gonna do what? He said he will visit the iniquity of the fathers upon the children unto the third and fourth generation of them that hate me. Y'all better get it right, because we ain't got that much time. You understand? You might not have 3 and 4th generations, but the Lord's still going to visit the iniquity of you upon your children to the 3rd and 4th generation. You understand? You keep celebrating Easter right now in this empire that you want to. You understand? The Lord is going to visit your children to the 3rd or 4th generation, even if we are born in the kingdom of heaven. You know what that means? You're going to be the manager at the equivalent of McDonald's in the kingdom of heaven. You understand? You're going to be living paycheck to paycheck in the kingdom of heaven. Yeah, you're going to have Israelite supremacy, but the Lord going to visit that iniquity on you because you chose Easter to be your God and not coming to the truth under commanded General Yohanan. You understand? You chose to indulge in Babylonian culture, you understand, and keep their customs versus coming back to your power, you understand, and celebrating the Feast of Unleavened Bread. You understand? The Passover, the Day of Atonement, doing what we do instead of what they do, right? You got this deeply rooted in the history of the Israelites. We always wanted to be like the rest of these other nations. And in turn, that made us the slave to these other nations. The reason why the Assyrians were able to come in and basically rule in the northern kingdom of the Israelites, because of what was going on in Ezekiel, the 8th chapter. The reason why we begin to be being tormented by these Romans is because we trusted in the Romans and wanted to be like them when we was at war with the Greeks, and all of them Edomites. We chose to participate in customs that had nothing to do with us, and the Lord punished us for it by giving us unto the same people that these customs came from, for us to be their slaves, right? Let's go to the Apocrypha, First Maccabees, right? First Maccabees chapter 1 and verse 11. In those days went there out of Israel wicked men who persuaded many, saying, let us go and make a covenant with the heathen that are round about us. For since we departed from them, we have had much sorrow. Like I just told y'all, Constantine was an Israelite man, but he followed them Romans. He did what them Caucasians did. He did what the Roman Catholic Church did. He wasn't in the truth. He didn't look to what Peter and Paul did. Nah, he wanted to pacify his oppressors by integrating paganism into our scriptures and persuading many of the children of Israel to follow the customs of these heathens. And then when you look at it, 1,700 years later, you understand, in the 2000s and 1960s, and you understand, all of these years later, you still got brothers and sisters being unrighteously killed, unrighteously alive, excuse my French, by these same descendants of these Romans right here in a whole nother revised version of the Roman Empire. Because you want to get high. Because you can't put the cigarettes down. Because you can't let go of the traditions of your oppressor. This is what's wrong with the children of Israel, right? When you see outside block parties get shot up on birthdays, Easter, you understand? When you see a family member unalive somebody for a plate of goddamn dry ass turkey on Thanksgiving, you shouldn't be surprised, because we shouldn't be celebrating the customs of the heathen, because we have our own customs. We got our own way of life, right? The Lord said we should have no gods before him. When you do what your oppressor does, your oppressor becomes your God. When you follow the customs of your oppressor, his God becomes your God. And your oppressor's God is him, right? Slovakia. Verse 12. So this device pleased them well. Then certain of the people were so forward herein that they went to the king, who gave them license to do after the ordinance of the heathen. Whereupon they built a place of exercise at Jerusalem according to the customs of the heathen. That's you Christian pastors. Your Christian pastors love the slave master so much that he went to go get a license to do after the ordinance of the heathen. And what's that license? Being an ordained minister. You understand? He built that place of exercise, right? Right there in the ghetto, in your hood, and on the corner where your grandma live at, right? And that place of exercise is what today? That's the church. So you can do exactly what your slave master does. Sit up there and worship a God that is his. You understand? And follow the customs of his people versus keeping the law, statutes, and commandments of your power, the God that brought you out of slavery in Egypt. With that being said, I'm going to go and end it. Yahba Shem Yahshua, a thumb to the brothers. Yahweh Shemar, a thumb by Shem Yahshua to the sisters. Make sure y'all like, share, subscribe if you haven't. You understand? Share this class. We gonna keep rocking and rolling in this truth. You understand? With that being said, Shalom, Israel.